Hey everyone, Raymond here, talking about Filipino martial arts, self-defense, and Filipino culture in general. Still stuck in traffic, so I figured I'd squeeze out one more video for all of you. I'm about to reach my destination in a few moments, but yeah, let's see what we can talk about. Now, what I want to talk about are the four kinds of students that you normally get in a Filipino martial arts class. All right. And why am I talking about this? Now, this is for, um, I'm talking about this for two reasons. One, if you're an instructor of Filipino martial arts, this is a good guide for you. You know, you'll understand your students a little bit. You can understand why some of the students don't have a good personality match with you. It will also give you an understanding of yourself a little bit, to understand how you got started with Filipino martial arts and where you're coming from and where your students are coming from. If you're another practitioner of Arnis or Filipino martial arts, if you're just starting out now, this will also help you gel with your club a little bit more, so you know that the motivations that you have, you'll be able to classify them, and you'll also understand the motivations that people have. Your fellow classmates and also your instructor. So, an understanding creates a more harmonious environment, makes it all more pleasant. All right. So let's talk about this. Number one kind of student that we have is what I call the warrior, you know, or the knight or the samurai types. So who are these guys? These are the people who go into Filipino martial arts, or to be honest, martial arts in general, and they kind of see themselves as one of these ancient, like honorable warriors, and that's their entire mentality. And I've seen guys like this in other martial arts as well, especially with kendo and kenjutsu. They do have a tendency to attract, what some people have derogatorily called, the samurai wannabes. All right, so you do have these guys. Um, so that's what these guys are, and what they're really interested about. When you notice them, they're the ones who are kind of really into the cultural aspect. They're the ones who would ask you, "Oh, okay." They're the ones who kind of light up when you tell them the folk stories behind the martial art, or the stories behind the martial arts. These are the people who enjoy stories about, the ancient warriors, what they used to do. You know, that's the thing. And just as I call them, the warriors or the knights and the samurais, these are the guys who are, kind of more uptight, more concerned with rules and hierarchy. These guys work as an instructor. When you find students like these, they really work well with you and try to keep the class in line. And you know, it's up to you how you manage that kind of thing. So that's number one. Number two, and I think this is kind of really more prevalent in Filipino martial arts than with other martial arts, is the operator, or the urban warrior, or the urban killer fighter type guys. I don't know. These are probably guys who got inspired by things like movies like The Hunted, Born Identity, where they use the knife fighting of Filipino martial arts quite a lot to show, that this is really what, secret agents and, real life operators use. And you get these guys a lot. They're pretty easy to spot. They have a tendency to wear paramilitary gear. If they used to do MMA, they're the kind of people who would, in my experience, wear the tap out shirts, or maybe they even have like, shirts or whatever with the logo of the Marines or whatever, right? Or they actually, a lot of these guys have military style haircuts, and yeah, and these guys are kind of, in my experience, some of them are really nice people for the most part, but they do have a tendency to be the more intense guys. In my experience, though, their only rival for intensity could be the warrior types, because the warrior types are, they also have this idea that it's a life and death kind of thing. So these are the two most intense guys. So if you're in a class, if you're managing a class and you see that there's a warrior type and there's the soldier type there, the operator type, pair them up, because the last thing that you want to do is to have, someone who's too intense partnered with someone who's not so intense. That's how accidents happen. Well, anyway, so that's the second type. All right. Now the third type is the sports guy. All right. These are the guys pretty easy to spot when you see them. Um, they're wearing sports gear, they're wearing rubber shoes all the time, or athletic shoes all the time. They're very active. A lot of them are quite fit, although not all the time. Some of them are very much, well, most of them are very much into the sporting aspects of Arnis. Uh, a lot of these people are starting to join clubs now because of the sporting aspect. Some instructors don't like it, but that's another matter entirely. So these guys are more into contest, the physical aspect of it. You will notice that when you talk to them about, the traditions, the history, they can get excited about it, but nowhere near as excited as, the warrior types. The warrior types eat that up. They love that. That's what fuels their training. But the sports type, that's not what the fuels their training. What really fuels their training is the deadline. When is the next competition? So if you tell these guys, oh, there's going to be a competition in 3 months, they're focused for those 3 months. Every time they go in there, and as an instructor, pay attention. If this guy that you're talking with is so into sports, into the sporting aspect of Arnis, that's the way to motivate them. If they're starting to, not attend training, or if they do attend, they're, kind of lazy, then you kind of just nudge them a little bit, remind them, hey, look, I know that you're not having a good time right now at home, or, you're a little busy, but this is seriously affecting your chances of winning at the next competition. And that normally gets their attention. Alright? So the sports guys. And these are the guys, definitely if you're an instructor, these are the guys who you could tap to talk about, health stuff like diets and whatever. They're really fun to do that kind of deal. Alright? Now, if you're a student and, you notice that most of the people in your class are the sporty types, then you kind of expect that, oh, they're very much into competition. Alright? Now, the last one, the fourth one, is the performer or the dancer, I like to call them. These are the people who love the look of the martial arts. They get involved with Arnis after they've seen some kind of cultural demo, where they saw someone with a sword, jump through the air, twirl it, and, it really looked good for them. So they're really more, and typically they're like the warrior, that they're kind of interested with the history normally, but not as much. They're really more into the aesthetics of it. And also, the dancers, they're not so much into the combative aspect of the martial art. They just love moving around. These are the people who would be perfectly happy doing jazz dance or whatever dance class there is in there. And they don't see it all that differently. Alright? So as an instructor, how do you manage people like these? Well, number one, definitely you don't pair them up with the operator type guys, because they're just going to hate each other, because the operator's going to be too intense, and then the dancers are going to be very, very particular about the accuracy of the movement. They're very specific with the accuracy of the movement. Like, the angle of the stick has to be just so. So there we are. Now, also, the way you motivate these people is by having demonstrations, These are the people you tap for your demonstrations. Like, if there's like a cultural event, like a fiesta or something, and you're going to have to demonstrate, these are the people who are going to be so into it. They would love it. They love performing. So that's what you do with them, So looking back at the bigger picture, Why is it, again, as an instructor, why is it important for you to know these kinds of people? Just so that you would know what kind of people would go into your club, you know? And you also know yourself. Like for me, when I got started, I'll admit I'm very much one of those, warrior type guys. I love the history, I love the traditions, and I do enjoy the realism, that you're gonna use this as our self-defense to protect people. And I love that. I love that about the martial arts. And that's how I got started with it, you know. So that's what I know, and that's my tendency. That's the tendency that I have with my class, is to be the warrior type. Like, hey, this is for self-defense. That's kind of attitude that I'd bring in. Um, so immediately as an instructor, I know my friction points with some of my students. Like for example, the performers. If I have a student who's a dancer performer type, they'd be really particular about the movements, but I'm more of results oriented. So I know that that's kind of our friction point. So if I have a student that's a dancer, um, I'd be very understanding about how particular they are with the movements. I don't get frustrated or annoyed with them with, your questions are useless. No, I understand that, oh, okay, this person is detail oriented, so let me give her the details. Why, this is the person who'll explain why you're doing this, you know. So that's the thing. So you understand the friction points, and also you learn to manage your class a bit more. Like I mentioned, if you have the warrior type and you have the operator type, they're the people that you pair together. They train quite well because of the level of intensity. Um, that's the deal. Okay, and of course you also, it helps you manage in what events to push them. Like for example, if you have a dancer type, you definitely know that he or she won't be excited if you talk about the next sparring competition or the next full contact event. But when you tell them about the next demonstration, they kind of light up, which is the opposite of the other people, you know. Um, that's the thing. So that's how you manage it. Now, as a student, it also helps you understand your instructor a little bit more, like when the instructor is teaching and then you see, oh, okay, this guy seems to be more of the operator type because the instructor walks into class, with olive drab pants and, full military gear, with a holster, with a gun, or maybe a dummy gun, depending on the rules or the laws in your area. So you definitely understand, oh, he's the military type, he's that operator type. And I'm more of the dancer type, so I know immediately that that's not the best match in the world, but in my opinion, if you're a good martial arts instructor, you can teach anyone, um, any kind of personality, and it's just a matter of management. But at least you know that there's that personality difference. Also, you understand the other members of the class. Like if you understand that, like 90% of your class, the students are all about competition, sparring matches, sports. Of course, the instructor is going to spend 90% of the time catering to that because 90% of the students are interested in that. So you just have to manage your expectations. Like you will learn stuff from this instructor, but also you're going to learn a lot about fighting and a lot about technique. So you understand where everyone is coming from. So in my experience, it just helps manage your expectations so that you're more harmonious. All right. So there we are, guys. Now, in the comments below, if you have any additional ideas, like any other student archetypes or types that you've noticed, or if you have classmates that are definitely the dancer type, or you have a classmate in your martial arts class and he's definitely the operator type, put it in the comments below. I'd love to hear more about that. So this is Raymond Suba talking again about Filipino martial arts, signing out, telling all of you guys, stay sharp.